Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, prosecution would like to call Detective Morris to the stand. Detective Morris, please state your name and age for the record.
My name is Detective Payton Morris. I'm 46 years old.
How are you connected to the case?
I was the detective. I worked for the Groupingsville Police Department, which I've worked at for 14 years.
Explain how you use basic investigative methods to solve this case.
Well, not only did I use basic investigative methods, I simply used the laws of physics. Essentially what I did is, as a part of the investigation, I looked at the time it took for when Mr. Burton was supposedly at the grocery store, when the attack occurred at the grocery store, and I really traced the tracks, his steps, all the way to his front door. And what I did is I looked at the time in which the call was made from the grocery store, which was at 10 p.m. And then I looked at when the blood was found, and the blood was found at 10:12 p.m. on November 10th, 2018, when this alleged crime took place. That 12 minutes was plenty enough time for the events to have occurred as it relates to this gentleman, the defendant. And what I looked at is the amount of time it took for him to get to the bayou, and we found a pile of wet clothes. And so those wet clothes were really important, because with the wet clothes, it meant that that this particular gentleman, he was able to leave, take off his clothes so that he could get rid of the evidence, and then make his way to the front door. Now, wet clothes just don't appear at a bayou. And who would leave wet clothes other than the defendant in this particular case? And he had 12 minutes to get from the grocery store to get back to his house if he just simply ran from the bayou, from 25th Avenue, along the rice plant. And if you just track the time, I was able to figure out that he had enough time to commit this crime.
What do you mean when you say you followed the footprints to Kerry Burton's front door?
What I mean is I looked at where he would have had to travel from the bayou, where those wet clothes were, to his house. And being able to track that down and track the amount of time it took for him to get from one place to another, he had to be the only person that could have committed that time, given that he was in the vicinity. And that's a part of my investigation and what I put in my report.
Detective Morris, what is the most logical path from Green's Groceries to Kerry Burton's home?
It really is that straight line. It is that straight line running along the rice plant from the bayou. And if you just apply the basic laws of physics, there's a person would just follow that straight line to his house.
Describe the time frame you used to put the defendant at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, as I said, if you look at 10 o'clock, between 10 o'clock and 10:12, we got the phone call, we found the clothes, we found the blood. It all occurred within this window of time. And again, there is no other way that any other person could have made it in that time but the defendant here, Mr. Kerry Burton.
What items were found at the crime scene?
As again, I mentioned this pile of clothes, the wet pile of clothes that was found, which was the thing that really tipped the scale for me.
What items found at the crime scene were immediately identified by the defendant when he was brought in for questioning?
Yeah, you keep hitting that nail on the head, and that I think that when you look at what was stolen in terms of the wallet, and you look at the clothes that belonged obviously to the defendant, as a detective who has done this 14 years as a detective, 10 years on the police force, it made it pretty clear to me that it was the defendant in this particular case.
Detective Morris, no further questions, Your Honor.
You're quite welcome.